Welcome back, new Umaniacs, to the Spinner Rack here at Season 4 of the Marvel New Universe Comics Podcast, the voice of the new universe. We're your hosts,
Andy with The Draft, and
Steven with also The Draft. In 1986, the New Universe was launched as an imprint from Marvel Comics, dedicated to a more grounded and less fantastic approach to comics and world building. The original idea was the world outside your window with real-time progress and greater realism. After the first year, some books were canceled, although we are seeing their characters in other places, and the remaining books have gotten consistent creative teams, their origins were streamlined, and they are becoming more action-oriented as the new universe becomes increasingly militarized in the wake of the world-shaking disaster, The Pit, and as we head towards this next major crossover, The Draft. With our podcast, you can follow along with us each week as we go through each comic in the order they hit the spinner rack, or just check out individual comics if you already have a favorite. We have a Season 4 Trivia Challenge now available on our website, kickersinc.com, and you can also find us over on X at Kickers Inc. for more of your Kickers Inc. related questions. This week, we get another overstuffed prestige format graphic novel, The Draft. Along with The Pit and upcoming projects, The Draft is an original graphic novel set in the new universe, expanding the universe, providing reasons for crossovers, and driving forward the meta-narrative. Sorry, Marvel didn't provide any advertising copy for this one.
Yeah, come on, guys. Are you trying to promote this thing or what? This week, The Draft. We got three young men begin displaying paranormal powers just as the draft is instituted in the United States as a response to the Pit disaster, sometimes referred to as the Black Event. But the draft is really just a cover to find and recruit an army of paranormals. Who will succeed? Who will wash out? And what does Teflon president really mean?
And we'll
Clearly
also
means he's resistant to strong acids and solvents, right?
He's perfluorinated. We'll also be discussing what was the purpose of the draft. We have several theories.
The comic, not the
thing,
yeah, not the event or the actual
conscription
drafting.
is I think Wikipedia calls it now.
Yeah, nice.
Google around on that either.
But yeah, The Draft, July 1988 is the cover listing, but came out April 19th, 1988. $3.50. So this oversized micrographic novel is still was much cheaper than the $4.99 comics of today in 2024. Welcome to 2024 recording time. Cover. Hey, we have a border. It's not a new universe border, nor is there really any mention of the new universe on the spine or anything or anywhere. But it is definitely the new universe. And it has a blue and white starred border. It's just the draft, American flag, clouds, sunbeams, and a whole bunch of characters on the front, fronted with Nightmask. So Keith Remsen in the Nightmask outfit is kind of striking the pose in the front with a bunch of guys in private army gear kind of thing. With what's the name of those hats? They look like 50s burger joint hats.
Oh, I forget.
Anyway, a couple of recognizable characters. Keith Remsen there. Blur, Pitbull, Mastodon, and probably Randy O'Brien. It's the only characters we can really recognize at this point on there. We got two writers, so not really sure how they pulled that off, but Mark Grunwald and Fabian Nicieza co-wrote this. One penciler, Herb Trimpe, 5 inkers. Kyle Baker.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle Baker, Michael Gustovich, Klaus Janson, Lee Weeks, Keith Williams. That's never a good sign when you have 5 inkers, right?
I was gonna say we get on the back cover these sort of mugshots of the various characters to sort of help you
Oh,
identify
right.
them. And we're in that stage of late capitalism where everyone has a trademark next to their name.
Like Marvel cares about trademarks. They use like Burger King and McDonald's and Wendy's all the time.
Pitbull TM, Nightmask TM, Sergeant Haldeman TM. Okay, guys, really?
Wonder if they still hold the trademark on Sergeant Haldeman.
My dad was Sergeant Frank Haldeman. I want to tell his story. Not in the comic book form, buddy. Sorry.
Uh,
I don't.
Ugh. Yeah, opening up the book to the actual content, we've got a middle school essay worth of text. Oh, text. Which is kind of framing things. So I'll try and go quickly through a little bit of background, but hopefully you've been following along the other books. Otherwise, this book isn't going to make too much sense. But yeah,
as a jumping on point for the new universe.
Right. Yeah, it's a little iffy. But a lot of the stuff has been kicked off from the pit, where Pittsburgh was blown up by Starbrand, though nobody knows that. And this has kind of started an escalation of global tension, and people are figuring that paranormals were the cause of it. This is narrated by Keith Remsen, Nightmask, who has powers to enter people's dreams. He was one of the canceled books, and he got drafted. And apparently his job essentially was to do like psychic screenings through dreams of the paranormals they bring in. And it sounds like it's getting a little rough. There's a couple of interesting tidbits. He talks about knowing that the white event is what caused the paranormalities. So there's a little bit in there like that, nobody got these until after the white event, even if we don't know what it is. He mentions that he's been that there is he felt the psychic trauma from the pit event, from that other world-shatteringly exciting graphic novel, the Witness. Experienced a bunch of like ghosts of people, and I wonder if this. And then we also had ghosts. Oh shoot, what's his face and from Starbrand?
Myron.
What's that?
Myron?
Oh yeah, Ghost Myron. Woody Allen popped into my head, but which maybe was haunting Ken for a half of a second there.
I want to tell you something. I'm going to haunt you. By the way, I don't want to get into it now.
No, okay. But yeah, he says, and he kind of ends it with the big problem I'm having is this: if sleep is work, what do I do for rest and relaxation? Oh yeah, and the nightmares. My patients' nightmares are like hungry dogs following me home when I leave their dreaming minds. Who will doctor the dreams of the dream doctor, pray tell? Oops, no more time to dictate my memoirs. I got a patient waiting. So our first actual page of comic art is Nightmask flying, jumping, running, kind of floating midair in a scene of like a city on fire, and there's bombers in the sky dropping bombs, and there's like lines of sad looking refugees, and he's in the dream of Sergeant Haldeman, and basically kind of like, yeah, TM Haldeman. Only TM on the back. He kind of introduces himself. I do all my dream investigations in my anonymous but dashing Nightmask persona. And come on, Sergeant Haldeman, how am I supposed to do your psych evaluation if you won't even show yourself? So he's like calling out, trying to find Haldeman's character in the dream, which usually he can do. Sometimes the characters are represented by something else, but typically you can find the person. And then we get a pink narration box, which is clearly Haldeman. It says, "I am everywhere, Lieutenant." So hey, Keith Remsen's the lieutenant. That's got to help him a little bit.
So Keith is 20 at this point.
Yeah,
and he So he didn't go to college. So they're being kind of generous with that lieutenant grade, if you ask me. But okay.
Yeah. Well, maybe they fast tracked him through ROTC or something. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
something like that I could understand. But
Right. So yeah. Haldeman calls out to him, apparently loud in some sort of like loud booming dream voice. Again, Keith is like, what are you trying to say? You don't have a dream self here. You're part of the whole scene, present in all these little tableaus of pain and suffering, because like everything we see is like red and burning. He goes to a plane crash, where Haldeman's talking about how they all suffered like for minutes before, the fires got to them and things like that. And basically Haldeman just keeps taking him to these scenes of horrible things, right? So he's searching him out. He goes to a window where there's a dad like beating up his pregnant daughter. Just like, geez. With some Spanish. So
Daddy, don't please, Hector, por favor, por el amor de Dios, siempre protegiendo el niño. Okay, whatever.
But yeah, like literally, like guys like punching his daughter in the face. It's like pretty sick stuff, Sergeant. Drunken brute beating up his pregnant daughter. You have one cheery little dreamscape here. He's like, dreamscape, Lieutenant. It is much more than that. Come, let's see more. So yeah, he flies over to another part of the city that's, maybe the same city that was being bombed. We get more narration from Haldeman. It is not me who has an endless supply of people wrecked by pain, sorrow, and suffering, Lieutenant. It is the world. I am of the world, so it is everything you see here. Keith kind of tries to spin things, like, sure, the world's bad, but there's good things too. Field of daisies, cottony clouds, they cut to a scene. Again, everything's kind of like sundown red and pink and angry looking, kind of like a grassy field, and there's a man standing there. And it's like the birds, the butterflies, the warm summer sun. Admit it, there's beauty and joy in the world too. And then the guy standing in the fields in the dream, which I don't think is supposed to be Haldeman, but is a soldier, starts throwing flames like a paranormal. He's napalming your daisies, your butterflies. Don't you see? Beauty and joy are fleeting things. What remains, what lasts, what is eternal is pain and death and destruction. Jeez. How this guy's there's no hope of passing his psych evaluation, right?
The goth thing was very popular back then. Perhaps just doing it to impress the chicks. You get those pale girls who read a lot of Neil Gaiman.
You don't think
what I'm going to talk about, girl? Some pain. I got suffering. I think this world's full of suffering. Yeah. You gonna finish those cheese sticks? Okay.
There's like a great Seinfeld episode where like George was worried Jerry was going to be too funny around his new girlfriend, so like Jerry pretends to be all like dour down, but it ends up like intriguing her actually more. That's what this guy's making me think of. But yeah, it goes on. This guy is all kinds of messed up. Soon a lot of men will be soldiers, and they will see the truth about life as clearly as him. The chemical fire crackles closer, soon to devour him, but he does not flinch, for when it does, his suffering will be over. So like Keith tries again to like actually rescue the soldier, even though Keith knows that it's a dream, but I guess he's trying to be symbolic here.
No, if you die in the dream, you'll die. I don't know.
Maybe. But yeah, the soldier ends up just like fighting him back with his flames that he's throwing anyway. We kind of get the end of this dream hellscape. It's pain surrounds us. It is within us, all of us, the entire world. Some of us are successful at blocking out for a time, but it is always there. It's my gift, my paranormal power to be able to stare straight into the heart of this Weltschmerz, this world pain, and project what I see into other men's minds. Do you feel it now, Lieutenant Remsen? Do you feel it? Gripes.
I, I hadn't thought of it, but this is a TV show that I really loved called Millennium. It was a spinoff of the X-Files. Now he was kind of a gloom and doom guy. It's my gift. It's my curse. With his
Yeah.
horrible vision of like the apocalypse all the time. It's a bit like that. Okay, so yeah, I kind of wonder if like they should have just called him Sergeant Weltschmerz or something. I don't know.
Hmm. I
Or
mean, that
maybe
might
they
have
were
been a
going
little
to,
too
and
Marvel Comics.
you're like, that's a bridge too far there, Gruenwald. I mean,
Yeah.
think, but yeah,
But we
we've
already have like Keith Remsen, like, REM sleep and all that.
we've got good mix the case for German romanticism or expressionism. I can't remember which, but
Yeah, like Weltschmerz, quite literally world pain. The feeling that reality can never satisfy the expectations of the mind, weariness about life, arising from the acute awareness of evil and suffering. Also a symptom of listening to too much Radiohead, I think.
This,
Yeah.
like I say, he's a goth pioneer. He could have been like the Nine Inch Nails guy, Trent Reznor.
I guess.
But he just had a band.
Anyway, so Keith wakes up and he's in presumably like an army hospital or like an army version of the clinic that he used to work in. Sadly, no Dr. Ballard or Lita Mercado showing up, or even
Teddy
would have been nice since, whole psychic anchor, part of a team. She wore the Nightmask suit in the dream that one time, and we thought maybe that was going to be a thing, but anyway. He
To be
wakes up.
honest, she's still maybe she'd be at most 18, so
Right.
she's, I don't know. Maybe
Does
got
the army
weaseled
really
out.
care at this point? Seems like they're just taking anybody. But yeah, so he wakes up thinking to himself, that sergeant, amazing. He has all that horrible stuff inside him, and yet he can still function. And of course, so he's giving a report to, about another army guys, and so Sergeant wakes up and he's, I trust you'll write me a glowing report. Tell the top brass I'm the only guy in the world who has what it takes to make soldiers out of some fancy powered freaks, right? Keith's thinking to himself, scary that the nation's security depends on a psycho like Haldeman. I'm like, yeah, it's a fair assessment. But yeah, on to brighter screens and happier pastures. Next page, we cut to, we got a date, March 3rd, 88, small road off of Interstate 290 near Giddings, Texas. And we've got a kid, maybe an 18-year-old, I think we find later, on a skateboard, going past a draft sign with an angry looking Uncle Sam saying registration is the law. That's not Big Brother-ish at all. He's basically just like rolling down an empty road on a skateboard, singing a song that I spent like literally a half hour trying to figure out what it was. It's like gonna cut you up like a knife right through your heart. So he ends up singing "Love Kills" and says, "Stupid song, man. Lyrics stink, but the guitar rips." And like if you look up "Love Kills," like a Freddie Mercury Queen song pops up, but the lyrics aren't the same, and there's no killer guitar riffs. And I probably listened to 3 different songs that are called "Love Kills," and none of them are right. There's even one that was a soundtrack from Nightmare on Elm Street, which was right around in the era, at least that sequel was. It was like a hair metal song, and like still no. So
I keep thinking this like Love Stinks. There was like a song like that. Who is not the Jay Giles band one? No.
yeah, don't waste your time, man. I put in the work. It didn't come true. But as he's going along, singing a song, probably the most ridiculous and wonderful thing happens. A bouncing Chevy hubcap starts going after him. And he's like, huh? And he kind of swerves his bike out of the way. He's like, what is this? Get this away from me. He's like, I feel like an idiot. And so he hops off his skateboard, and this hubcap's kind of bouncing around him, staying close by until it eventually does that thing like a frisbee where it kind of spins, wobble, 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 wobble until it settles down to the ground. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. A 49 Chevy hubcap? I got burned by a hubcap? I'm talking to a hubcap? And it snaps into his hand, like it, telekinetically ish. Basically just goes right into his hand. And he's like, what is this thing? It feels hot, almost alive. And he throws it like a frisbee, but it comes back. So he throws it. I don't know, geez. Like, is it the Superman throw? Like where he throws the baseball and it goes all the way around the world and then comes back on the other side? Or just sort of gleaming in the sun. But anyway, he finds a magic hubcap and then heads back home to his parents' farm.
It's not like big like Captain America's shield.
No, it's definitely frisbee sized.
Frisbee size.
But definitively the Chevy symbol on there. So it ain't no Ford hubcap. But yeah, so he's like, all right, I'll keep it. Goes back home, kind of talking about his family's farm, how they're not planting crops anymore. Runs into his dog, Harold, who he keeps calling fat all the time, and his sister Tracy, who drew a picture of him like a superhero. It's like Spider-Man or that Star Brand guy. So the world doesn't know what happened to Ken, so they're better off than we, I suppose. And so he comes back home to his mom crying. He's like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? It's like, Chris, honey, please come inside. She's like, you're scaring me. What's the matter? So they all go inside, and the dad's there watching the TV. So we got our classic New Universe television, and they're getting a special report. The president's mandatory draft resolution requiring all men between 18 and 45 to serve in the military for a minimum of 6 weeks necessary for basic training. It's supposed to begin processing applicants by this time next week. So get ready for the draft, son.
Oh, 18 to 45.
Yeah.
Which of your podcasters are still able to be drafted? Let me point out that I believe these last couple of pages are the Kyle Baker inking, because that style he has is one of the more recognizable ones. We had some work he'd done in Merc, and, a couple other books, Sci-Force once.
Yep.
So Chris is a young guy just turning 18 in Texas, and with a down and out family farm. And he is now it's not just registering the draft is on. That's actually pretty fast. They're like, I was like, wait a second, they're putting up posters. They just passed this thing in like January, so now they're like register. And now it's past Congress, so the full draft is on.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a young Ken Connell. He's got like the long blonde hair as well. So let's see, that was March 3rd. So we cut a little bit later to March 18th, New York City, Park Avenue South. And we got a guy driving a cab, basically all gridlocked up in traffic, and he's kind of like doing the junior version of Sergeant Haldeman. Gray, everything's gray these days. The sky, the streets, the snow, the people, even me, I suppose. Feel like we've all been stuck in a rut, a big cold gray rut. Hey, a relatable character. Wife says I'm having my midlife crisis early. Isn't supposed to hit till I'm 40. Maybe. All I know is the long winter, my dead-end job, my thankless marriage, and the million aggravations of living in this city are really getting to me. Feel like a little gray mouse trapped in a huge maze. Think I'm on the verge of totally losing it.
Between this guy and this sergeant, I've never felt like so seen in a comic book before. At last, guys that are totally relatable. It's like they're looked inside me and wrote a comic book about it.
Yeah, we get his name eventually. All I caught was first name Garth. I'm not sure if they gave us a last name in this book, at least.
I think you're right. I don't remember ever getting a last name for it.
Yeah, but he talks
Um,
about having recently gotten headaches, which totally, totally and probably unrelated to gaining paranormal powers, right? Um, and he's having a conversation with like a token
Yuppie.
businessman that's, yeah, yuppie is what he calls him, but just looks like a business dude in the back of his cab talking about the draft. And so he's taking this guy to the draft to get registered, whereas Garth is talking about like, oh, I'll probably just do it at the last minute, like I always would. Things open all day. Um, so
Well,
again, they're kind of just chatting, stuck in gridlock.
we
Uh,
do get a little like there's a newspaper there, anti-draft march, and they're saying maybe that's why the traffic's so bad.
oh,
These
right.
guys, they're kind of making fun of like, tell these guys the '60s are dead, and I gotta say the yuppie is uh, what is it? So Garth is saying like, I'll just put it off to the last minute, and I'm older anyway. And the yuppie starts going, the way I have it figured, this is whole draft is just a way to stimulate the economy. After Pittsburgh and the stock market crashing as low as it did in October, I think the government wants to instigate a wartime economy in order to stave off the depression that experts. This guy is so 100% on the money. I cannot believe like how real this dude is. So give it up for my friend Yuppie Fair. He is telling it like it is. Now,
He predicted the future Metal Gear Solid games, the war economy, and the evil AIs taking over everything. But yeah, so again, Garth is kind of like, what is he blabbering about? Like, my head's pounding, feels like a tumor. The guy keeps going on about markets and like orange. Well, I'm guilty of not actually describing these characters, I guess. Garth kind of looks like a early middle-aged guy. He's got bright red hair, kind of longish, and a beard. Wearing a turtleneck, driving a cab. But this orange bar, it's like makes me think the inanimate carbon rod or like a piece of rebar basically kind of appears in front of him. And it's like
I
his
was
head.
calling them tubes. You can't
Yeah,
really tell if they're hollow or full or solid. Let's say solid.
yeah. But like as his headache gets worse, basically like one of those kids like jungle gym play domes kind of structure. So like this pattern of interlocking tubes just forms all in the cab. Freaks out um the rider, his cab fare guy. But yeah, it's just basically like the whole cab fills up with these orange bars all over the place. It's like, what in the world? Where do all these pipes come from? So the guy bails. It's like they're multiplying, getting denser and denser. What are they? Where are they coming from? I've gone nuts. They're on the verge of losing it, and then pop, like they all go away. So like clearly this guy's is this more useful than having a psychically controlled hubcap? I don't know. But he's like, oh my gosh, I gotta go see a doctor or a shrink or something. And he comes home to his very supportive wife. She's like, Garth, there you are. Where have you been? You told me you'd call if you're going to be late. I have bridge tonight. It's like the weirdest thing happened to me. You're not going to believe it. He's like, oh, the only thing I'm not going to believe is when you get off your lazy butt and work double shifts again. It's like, you don't. It's like, tell me later. I'm running late. There's a TV dinner in the fridge. It slams the door. So he did not get to explain his weird paranormal powers to his wife, who had to go play cards, I guess.
It's weird because bridge is like two couples. Like, isn't it like a four-person game?
I am way too young and hip to know what bridge is. So
I mostly know it from sitcoms from the '60s, I think, that were still on when I was a kid. But yeah, they'd all go to like, it would always be like a paired up thing. So it's
yeah,
weird to me that she would be going by herself, but okay.
maybe that's even more of a slam against Garth here. She didn't even want to play bridge with him.
He
Uh,
totally got cucked by that bridge playing set that she hangs with. Yeah.
Why are you playing with Randall today? You always play with him. You look great. She always complains I never want to talk to her about anything. And the one time I do, she doesn't have time. Serves me right, I guess. Still, I gotta talk to somebody. What's happened to me? I gotta tell somebody about what happened to me. There's music on in Judy's room. So he's got a daughter. He knocks and opens the door. And he's got like a punk rock teen daughter with like purple hair and purple lipstick. Like, Dad, you can't come in here. For pity's sake, which is totally an unteen thing to say. It's like, what are you, the Gestapo or something? Richard and I are trying to study. It's like a guy with a mohawk. But she does have a book. So maybe they picked it up real quick. But it was kind of just like a funny little interlude. So good old Garth. I keep forgetting and having to look up his name. His wife doesn't respect him. His kid doesn't respect him. His kid's boyfriend definitely doesn't respect him. So what are you gonna do? Just goes, sits down, watch the TV, start thinking about how he can never make any decisions in his life. He's just kind of drifts along, not really doing anything. So he makes the wonderful decision. It's like, I'm gonna take charge of my life before I get too depressed to even go on. I'm gonna go and enlist.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, man. Is it too much to hope the army will take a paunchy, unmotivated, overage, underachieving, psychotic slug like me? Blast them all, make them take me.
That's the can-do attitude we need in the service there, mister.
Yeah, jeez. Anyway, cut to 3 days later, our third and final paranormal introduction. The library at the Toot, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge.
Eddie Giotti, remember me? What? Is that you?
No, just some other random dude. Harlan Mook.
One of the many no, go ahead,
yeah.
Harlan Mook, yes.
So classic nerd, I guess. Blue jeans, white shirt, tie, pocket protector, big glasses. He's sitting at a table in the library with piles of books all around him. He's like, let's see, the first Bessel expansion, and there's some math, which maybe is right. Some kind of differential equations, I think.
So yeah, I didn't really remember much about this, but when I saw this, I did remember when I had originally seen this book closer to the time it came out, and I would obsess over these, like, what does it mean by this? It's like a very advanced equations with summation. I think they screw up some of these terms because they have to be like subscripts or something on some of them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm assuming they just looked some stuff up, and neither Grunwald or Nicieza are calculus whizzes.
Right. But it was the sort
I'm
of thing
assuming.
that,
I might be wrong.
To our knowledge, they were just, doing that. And it's like, back then it was much harder to kind of figure out what things like this, meant at all. You'd be like, well, let me look at an advanced math book, and it tells you.
Yeah, you just can't just take a picture of it with an app and have it solve it for you.
Yeah. So trying to figure out the Bessel expansions are a series of equations that do show up in PChem. So in theory, each of us would have passed it at some point, or at least seen it and moved on with our lives. But it's one of these things that I used to find like very like, ooh, what could this mean? I'll like go out and search around and like be very frustrated because it's more difficult than you could to find something that's half written correctly.
Once an equation has like the fourth like letter symbol on that, like I can't anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the form of it is an advanced equation. That's true, but beyond that, like, oh,
yeah, give me some chemical formulas or some structures or something. But anyway, like as he's going through his math, like there's two guys kind of whispering behind him. Mary MIT pranksters, I suppose, and kind of innocuous, but they basically just like sneak up on him and yell "boo," like right in his ear, and like startle him, and he explodes. So these two guys are like right on his shoulder, and he just booms. And we cut to some other kids from the library, like, "What? A bomb just went off? They're on fire!" And it's a little tricky to figure out like positioning, but I think we can kind of figure it out from later. Like behind them, shoot, what's his name? Harlan basically materializes. So like he boomed, blew these guys out of the way, and then kind of showed up, a couple feet in another part of the library and just kind of fell because, originally he was sitting. And then we get to the scene where the explosion happened, kind of get to pan back and see the whole thing. And yeah, there's two kids on fire. Somebody's looking like he's quick with a fire extinguisher. And Harlan's like, "What am I doing over here? What, the fire? What happened? I'm dizzy. Something grabbed me." And then he just kind of faints and passes out. But he's fine. So the emergency EMTs are kind of actually, the one guy looks dead because it's just kind of all wrapped up. But I get the impression they didn't kill these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He does look all wrapped up, but they're not
There's a
talking
little,
about like everyone else is dead, and they just sort of let him go with saying that he wasn't close to
yeah,
it and he's fine.
right. Then Harlan looks back at this big ash pile of burnt carpet where the desk and all of his work used to be. He's like, "Oh no, my dissertation notes, my texts, where are they? I've spent months on them. All I have to do is finish my thesis and I'll have my doctorate. I can't have blown up. They gotta be here somewhere." He's like rubbing his hands in the dirt ash where his papers used to be. He didn't make any copies. So tortured grad student. I wonder who's gonna end up causing the problems in this book.
It's like one relatable character after another.
Right. Depressed middle-aged guy is just like the different stages of life. You're a teen, you're happy, you got a hubcap, your
You're
family,
skateboarding.
a
You're
dog.
skateboarding.
You go to school to study science. It's depressing and hard and makes you want to quit.
You get out. You're middle aged.
Middle
Everything's
aged.
gray. No
Nobody
family really
respects
loved
you, and Dangerfieldian levels of respect being given. Oh, but yeah, this poor guy. And this pretty much continues on for this poor man in this book, but he's walking the streets at night, the sad, listless walk. My work ruined, my career shot down in flames, 8 years of school wasted. I put my heart and soul into that dissertation, and some nutcase with a bomb goes and destroys it like it was nothing. Because obviously he has no clue what happened, right? Why would he? He didn't know he had paranormal explodo teleporting abilities. It's like, if only I'd made copies of my notes. There would be computers now, but I guess not necessarily.
I mean, yeah, you're like if your lab notebooks are just notebooks that you're taking around with you and making these like mathematical insights and proofs and stuff, I guess you could just have it all in hard copy around you and think you're okay. But I would say back then you'd have a lot of copy machines. It would be
Right.
easy for you to do something like that. But I mean, even when we were in schools, you'd have people kind of legendarily like trouble. Yeah, their discs got corrupted or something, and they'd have all kinds of issues if you weren't always backing things up. Several locations, several forms of hard copy and electronic copies. Just whatever you need.
Seriously, like a couple days ago, I had a panic trying to find a draft of the paper I was working on. I just could not locate, even with search and the file folders and all that stuff. But I did find it, thankfully. Sheesh. But yeah, poor Harlan. It's like, do I drop out? I can't do that. don't know, family, what would they do? And he's sitting on the pier at night. Yeah, if only I had the guts to put myself out of my misery right here, but I'm too chicken. So, again, honestly, that is a pretty common problem in like the high pressure world of graduate studies. Is grad students killing themselves, sadly. He goes for a walking again by an enlist now poster. Says maybe I'll get drafted and they'll ship me overseas somewhere and I'll get shot or something. Yeah, if that happened, I'll be able to forget all about that cockamamie paper. It's like I'm gonna register right now. So his current plan is to register and hope to get shot. It's an uplifting bunch of dudes here.
Fantastic.
Boy. So end of March. So we cut again. So we've got introductions to our three characters. We've got Chris, the teenager with the hubcap. We've got Garth, the taxi driving middle-aged guy who makes tubes, and Harlan, super smart math genius / sad graduate student who explodingly teleports, but he doesn't quite know it yet.
Or as the back cover prepared us, Gridlock, Metallurgust, Blowout.
Right. None of those code names are used in this book, nor do we see, honestly, a whole lot of action. But hey, sad life stories.
Me, Blowout, maybe?
Yeah. 21 pages in. We've introduced 3 new characters.
All right.
So
things will definitely pick up now.
Yes, I'm sure they will. So March 31st, back to Texas, back to Metallurgust, Chris Barrett. And he's in line to register, basically. And, kind of chatting with some of the other guys in line. You think they're going to be a war? I hope not. I can't even take a punch.
By the way, I want to point out, he's talking to a guy in line is talking to him, I guess. And he's like, oh, shut up. The guy is like short red hair, and for the longest time I was like, is that Garth already?
Yeah, because Garth has longish red hair and a beard, but then he shows up later in the book, clean shaven, short red hair. So come on, get your we need better distinguishing characteristics here, I guess. And yeah, maybe like per character scene, they're kind of like switching inkers. Like maybe Baker did a lot of the Chris teen metallurgist stuff. It kind of looks like he's showing back up here. It looks nice.
That makes sense.
But yeah, as it turns out, he's signing up for the army earlier than he was. Like his lottery number draft came up. The army recruiter guy has an eye patch, but otherwise not terribly interesting. He goes through
young Dan Crenshaw here.
Yeah, right. Guys trying to be Solid Snake a little too hard.
Neo-Conclops. Hey, get out there and we have some wars in the Middle East. We're going to need you to fight for us. So it's good. What? Paranormals. We need to fight some paranormals.
Resin, you say? Anyway, they put him through like the physical and the psychological evaluation, and it was like they asked me all these questions. Have I ever had unusual physical abilities or witnessed any unusual mental tendencies? He's like, duh, yeah, doc, I got a flying hubcap. Does that count? Stupid geeks. He's like, now what? I was like, don't call us, we'll call you. Why did I even bother doing this early? I don't even want to be a soldier. I don't even care. But he's kind of like, again, back on those like back streets of Texas, which is pretty wide open area. And he pulls out his hubcap, and it's a kind of weird thing to be asking the army about whether I have powers, but he has the hubcap kind of levitating a foot off the ground like a Back to the Future hoverboard, and he hops on it and talks to it. Okay, hubby, let's cook with fire. He's like, steady now, like standing on a bowl of jello. But basically he starts flying. So it's a flying skateboard now. Like he's doing flips and he's flying through the air, somehow balancing on this roundish frisbee sized thing. But yeah, just zipping around like crazy. Flies into the barn. This makes it feel like an episode of Smallville, where Kent was always out in the Kansas farm fields. They go up to his little like loft barn thing. Um, so he kind of sneaks into the top of the barn, hides his hubcap in the hay, and goes down for his fat dog Harold and gives him a hug. But yeah, he's just kind of like talking about hiding the hubcap essentially. So he hasn't told anyone about it. Goes back to the family. Again, they're talking about protests again, though we never really see any follow through with that. He's, he's like, were there any protests, or where have you been in town? Any protests? And like, no, walked right in without a problem. Like, walked right in? You didn't. You did. Why? Why did you sign up so quickly? I won't allow it. So dad's trying there. Mom's crying. He's like, what are you gonna do? Change the law now or 2 weeks from now? What's the difference? Mom's weeping. Oh, Chris. Oh no, Mark. What are we going to do? Nothing. Nothing's what you're gonna do. So they have a little bit of conversation with him. Again, he's like, don't try and talk me out of it. It's already the law anyway. But then he shows his mom the flying hubcap. So he takes her to the barn. He's like, I've been sort of hiding something. It's like, a hubcap? Yeah, that's what I thought at first, but it's special. Look. And he kind of shows her flying in it. It's like, oh, Lord, how? It's like, I think it's from outer space or something. I've had it for a couple of weeks. I can do a lot of cool things with it, but I'm worried the army will take it, or Dad will if he finds out about it. I'm bringing it with me. But if I have to return it, you have to promise me you won't tell the old man about it. So yeah, he doesn't know what's going on, and we don't really either. Like, does he have magnetic powers? Is it only the hubcap that gives him this power? Is it a magical hubcap and he has no powers? Like, I don't know.
The old man gave me this hubcap. He told me I was the only one who could handle it.
Did Ken Connell work on this old Chevy and impart some of the Star brand's infinite power? So now it's an infinitely powerful hubcap that can do anything that your mind is only the limits of the hubcap's imagination. Yeah. Now that would be stupid. Anyway, says, love you, Mom. I'm scared. Cut to page 25, April 4th. And he's getting on the bus to go to camp. And the dad's like, just like 65, too much innocence. But Chris doesn't really, seems mostly okay. Says goodbye to his family. His little sister Tracy's there. He's like, are you going to be a hero, Chris? He's like, you bet. Be good to Mom and Dad, kid. They're going to need you to be strong. I'll probably be back in 6 weeks. There won't be any war. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, we hope. So it gets a hug from the family. The army guy, sends him on the bus. Move it, soldier. Get in there. Highway to Austin, plane to Georgia. I wonder why I'm the only one on this leaving the state. Why I'm the only one on this bus leaving the state for basic. It's like, I really wonder. But he's got his hubcap with him. In the last little panel, it kind of shows him peeking at it in his duffel bag.
Yeah, his town in Texas is right between Austin and Houston, so he's going to, as we've heard, go to this particular training camp that's in Georgia.
Yeah.
Oh, well done. I think we can take a quick break there before the conscripts step off the bus in Georgia. Let's take 5 and give folks a chance to catch their breath from the spellbind, pulse pounding, thrill a minute.
Right, we may have to recap all of that nonstop action. 25 pages. 3 guys, half powers, joined the draft. Why did that take 50 minutes? Anyway, break time.
Welcome back. Moving on into page 26, which was as close to a breaking point as we could find in this thing. We have our erstwhile heroes getting off the bus in what we'll be told in a second is Fort Benning, Georgia. Fort Benning, incidentally, is now Fort Moore. Moore.
Was Benning a racist or something?
Yeah, Confederate Army general.
Okay.
I mean, you honestly, you look at the write-up in Wikipedia, and it's like, oh, and of course, as a result of national protests following the murder of George Floyd by Minneapolis police, Congress began to rename Confederate leader from military bases, including Fort Benning. Oh, okay. He was a brigadier general in the Confederate States Army during the Civil War. There were 10 installations named for Confederate generals that were renamed. Should be great if you didn't need a lot of Southerners to enlist in the Army for your current wars, but okay.
Hey, I'm sure there's plenty of Southern World War II veterans you could name things after.
Most likely.
It's like an academic building, you know, like somebody donates $1 million and you get your own fort named after you, right? It's at least
it's good.
Like you go the sporting route, it's like, you know, Fort H&R Block.
It would be more honest if they were like Fort Raytheon, Fort Lockheed Martin. Yeah. Anyway, everyone's getting off the bus, and Chris is recognizable. I think that must be Garth behind him, even though you don't see his red hair. But
probably Chris supposed to be.
Yeah, he's like saying, everyone here looks younger, bigger, and stronger than me. Glad to see I'm not the only over 30 here. So I assume that's Garth. We see Dave Landers over on the left. And even though he's on the cover in a prominent position, I think that's about all we'll see of him this issue.
Come on, Pitbull's there in the back.
We've got, I think Bazooka is like, I wonder how long I'll be able to conceal my weird talent with all these people around.
Ken Connell standing there right next to him.
Who?
Doesn't it look like Ken Connell right next to him?
I'm sorry, you're right. It looks like Ken. We see Harlan sitting there. I don't like this. I never should have registered that night. What was I thinking of? And over on the right, we have Pitbull. This is stupid. I'm Pitbull. I ain't got no business here. The sergeant starts yelling at them immediately. It's our Sergeant Haldeman, who's going to be their drill sergeant. All right, you sorry bunch of you losers, wastes, and yuppies. See that white line? I want all your stinking tootsies touching that line without going over it. Let's go. I'm not going to yell the whole podcast.
I was waiting for him to like cuss somebody out for laughing at him saying the word tootsies.
It's always like, you know, we know these guys are pretty foul-mouthed, but it's a PG at best comic book, so you have to use a lot of euphemisms, as you can imagine. My name's Drill Sergeant Instructor Sergeant Haldeman, DM. For the next 2 months, I'm going to be your mama, your daddy, your priest, and your boogeyman. Eyes forward. I don't want to see any of you pansies peeping at me. Use your peripheral vision. I said peripheral. Do not try to correct me.
It's really going to be hard to yell the word peripheral.
You would think. Or maybe he's just like saying right in front of someone that you can't see, and he's like spitting in their face. You will not call me Sergeant. You will not call me Sarge. You will call me Sir. You got that? I can't hear you. Yes, sir. So he calls out Major Zentner.
Smellhound.
AKA
Bloodhound.
Bloodhound from early DP7 is now a major. We ran into him in DP7 last issue.
Yep. It's been a while in actual time, but
yes, we've trying to recall what we did last. The anyway, the major here has a knack for, well, which of you bums are going to wash out just by looking at you. I'll save us all the aggravation. So he goes through the line and smells each person that's been recruited. What? He goes by Chris, paranormal. He's got the scent. He goes by Pitbull, paranormal. Couldn't tell at first. His body odor was so strong. Goes to Blur. I've met this blurry black man before. Smells him anyway. Normal. He gets he identifies some normie in the crowd. Somehow this fellow got himself misidentified during the screening process. Kicks him out. Harlan Mook. He just passes on by. He passed by without saying a word. Ah, you say something, recruit. Oh, no, sir. I can't hear you. No, sir. Push-up position, chump. Give me 50. 1, 2. Harlan is not drawn as a very muscular fellow. Wiry, maybe? I don't know.
Wiry at best.
At best. Again, very relatable. He can struggle to do 5 push-ups, I think. Sarge orders the rest of them to go to the barber's. We cut to afterwards. We have Dave Landers again with his with a shave and a haircut. So he's looking very trim, and he is talking to someone who could have been Scuzz, although Scuzz is not in the army, saying, "You got to be kidding! 10 of these bunks wouldn't support my weight." Could also be Randy, although we never really have Randy identified in this either. So
what's funny is I'm sure it's just the art, and then they just didn't fill in the details, but it just looks like they shaved Mastodon like up and down, like his arms is smooth, like doesn't look like he's got his chest hair. He's like they gave him the full treatment.
Getting the Brazilian blowout there, Dave. What? Look, I can't, it's the army. You can't argue with them. I don't.
It's gonna be real itchy.
So Harlan's walking around. Arms are killing him. Guy let him go after 25, but he's looking terrible. So he runs into Chris, who's now got short hair, and they introduce themselves to each other, with Chris on the top and Harlan underneath. Harlan's thinking to himself, he seems young, probably just 18. Wonder why he's being so friendly. And he stashes his math textbooks into his footlocker. Suddenly we get Pitbull picking Harlan up, and
yeah, so like he accidentally knocked his helmet over and it just barely grazed Pitbull's foot.
Oh, okay, yeah. The foot is much larger than the helmet.
Yes.
And Pitbull's much larger than Harlan. Picks him up and is holding them. Yeah, that helmet belonged to you, Four Eyes. Yeah, no, I mean, yes. I mean, please put me down. Chris tries to defuse the situation. Hey, lay off him. He didn't drop that on purpose. It was an accident. Chris Barrett, Prince of Peace. You sweet on this twerp, pretty boy. Ha, I eat twerps and pretty boys like you two for snacks between meal. Come here. Once again, we get Pitbull's main character, cannibal.
Yes. And I mean, that's real though. Like he's not even exaggerating. He was, when he fought DP7, he bit.
He was ready to eat.
Yeah.
Dave Landers, who is now just a couple bunks down. It's amazing how these bygones be bygones, they say to themselves. Okay.
Hey, maybe they'll show us some cool action when those two meet each other and realize that they're kind of mortal enemies.
I think we passed that point, but okay. Chris is like, I gotta summon my hubcap before this gorilla trashes us. To me, my hubcap.
It's like rattling around in his duffel bag, like helplessly.
Seems to move slightly, but nothing happens. And The Sarge is yelling at them all again. I want you in uniform out in the yard in 5 minutes. Lollygaggers. This is killing my voice now. So, yeah, Pitbull drops them both, does not eat them. And 6 minutes later, we have Sergeant yelling at him. Listen, I'm going to cut the crud and give it to you, said. Case is straight. You boys think you all got a big secret. The Army doesn't know about you and your special whatever it is you do. Well, that's bull chips. It's no secret. That's why all you freakers are here instead of in a regular boot camp. And then we have everyone thinking to themselves, they know about my power? Huh? None of the rest of these... Blur is thinking, none of the rest of these guys were told they were being sent to a camp for paranormals? Because he and several of the others were nabbed in the vicinity of the pit, and they were told, I guess, by Jack Magnaconti.
Right, yeah. They got the special recruiter.
But the other characters who were new in this issue are saying to themselves, everyone here can do this? Wow, these guys do look kind of strange anyway. And they're like looking at Blur, they're like, well, that guy, I can't even see him straight because he's moving so fast. So, okay, that makes sense. Back up, the Sarge. Uncle Sugar thinks the foolishness you saps know how to do is going to be useful to this country's security. You ain't gonna do anyone squat if I can't make men out of you. Uncle Sugar was one of the terms that they would use in the Gnaw.
Okay.
I was reading a couple of issues of that a while back.
I was thinking that was an odd one.
Yeah, it didn't catch on in the wider pop culture, I guess. But Pitbull there chuckles a bit, and Sarge picks up on it. Something amusing you there, Picaro? Picaro is Pitbull's real name, apparently.
Right. That's a revelation. It's the most interesting thing that's happened in Pages.
It's also, written on his chest if you look closely. But so yeah, he kind of backmouths Sarge. Matter of fact, yes, Sarge. I'm just trying to imagine what some of these pretty boys here can do that makes the Army so hot for him. So Sarge is like, you think you're so special? Well, I can tear people in half, chew through rocks, and lift buses, Sarge. So maybe I'm a whole army in one. I get the feeling, Private, you don't have respect for my authority. Maybe you don't think I can keep slobs like you in line. All right, Private Rock Chewer, I'll give you your shot. Go ahead, smash me. Ricardo raises his fist. Okay, Sarge, you talked me into it. Hope you know how to talk with your head pounded down to your ankles. Please, for the love of Ma, stop.
He used his depression beam on him.
Oh, no. Pitbull saw the dark, what was it? World pain,
Weltschmerz,
reality, and the realization that reality can never satisfy the expectations of the mind. So that puts him on the ground. Please stop it. Get it out of my head. I don't see you tearing anyone in half, Private. Get back in line. Anyone else want a shot? You may be smarter than you look. I'll tell you just once. Mess with me and I'll give you more grief than you can stand. That's like an action scene. I don't know. I guess. So here we get into that night, and the guys are sitting around the bunks chatting and getting to know each other better. And it's about this point that I realized that the character designs reminded me of something. Garth, the metallurgist, once you shave, no, the Gridlock.
Yeah, Gridlock.
Redhead guy. Once you shave and haircut him, he ends up looking like Bobby Hill.
Yeah.
Harlan looks like Dale Gribble. And stretching a bit, but maybe Chris the Metallurgist looks a bit like Boomhauer.
Yeah.
So I got a strong King of the Hill vibe out of this last quarter of the book.
All the
really helped kind of make it useful, keep me going. Anyway.
And we talked about it pre-recording, but the Gridlock character is just totally unrecognizable. Like until he starts doing something that it makes it clear that it's him. Like it just doesn't look like the same character.
Yeah, even when they're talking, it's, Garth. I mean, I forget if I didn't catch his name first, but you mentioned your father earlier. He was in Nam, says Garth to Chris. Chris, haven't done so much exercising since the old man shut the farm down. I guess maybe that should be the first phrase. He was in
Yeah.
Nam. Yep, Garth in 65. And I'm like, was his father Garth? No, wait, the guy he's talking to is Garth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the kid's father had gone in 65. That's why he was talking about it before. Garth continues, I missed out on that one by a few years. My cousin was killed there, though. Guess the war would have been different if they had folks like us around. What do you mean? What if you had, the Viet Cong running through the jungle and suddenly there was a gridlock?
That really
Everyone
would
kind of
have
laughs at this
changed the
tinker
whole
toy.
course of the war.
This small jungle gym appears in the middle of their bunker.
Look out, we have to jump over or go around this thing. This is way worse than napalm.
You defoliated my forest. What are you doing with this now? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, Harlan.
Your Vietnamese sound a bit Russian.
I'm sorry. He's the Russian advisor to the
There
Viet
you go.
Cong. Yes. Remember that from Rambo now that I think about it. There was Harlan's like, I don't want to talk about this, but Chris and Garth are like, yeah, come on, let's show us your powers. And Harlan's actually interested in this jungle gym. He's like, this is much more fascinating than mine. The geometric possibilities are endless. Three-dimensional constructs can be created from mathematical equations. And anyway, the guys are actually starting to get along. Chris tells him that he has a hubcap that flies, and he shows them, come to Papa. They're like, are you telekinetic? Do you have mind over matter abilities? Can you lift up my footlocker with your mind? All I could do is this hubcap. Oh, it's the hubcap, I tell you. It's magic. Or maybe it's from outer space. Maybe it's from the other land where a magical spring fights an eternal battle against winter.
The Justice Bros did have little flying glider things.
Well, yeah.
Could be a hubcap off of one of those, though they didn't have wheels.
Becky or Tattoo brought it over and just left it laying around Texas by mistake.
Yeah. Just by coincidence, the Chevy symbol is the same as like the symbol for one of their cities or something, or a rank.
It would have been hilarious if Justice was always like, oh, that's the symbol for. Anyway. So yeah, Harlan just sort of laughs at this hubcap thing, but when they ask him what he can do, he's like, you don't want to know. You don't ever want to know. Leave me alone.
Yeah, he kind of freaks out.
Yeah,
I guess he knows now, though. I guess that's the implication. Before he didn't know what his power was.
Yeah, he figured out that his power screwed him. He screwed himself over all those notes and everything, which even more negative personality is just getting reinforced here.
Well, it would be perfect if he was so like wrecked and bummed out that Sergeant Haldeman's power didn't work on him. Like, you can't make me more world weary and depressed. Nice try.
I've been a grad student at MIT. You think you can depress me? I don't think so, buddy.
You got nothing.
He just sort of laughs off all these gloom and doom. Yeah, the guys are later saying, what has set him off like that? I don't know. Guy's kind of strange. He's got some heavy problem, Next day, Sarge is pointing them at a obstacle course, and he gives them all a little pep talk and sends them all. Jeff Blur, of course, whizzes out there first. Pitbull close behind. Jeff's actually kind of into it. He's like, it's only when I run. That's the only time I can forget my family died in Pittsburgh for even a moment. They all kind of, they go through the various obstacles, and Harlan is struggling. The other guys are like, come on, keep up with us. And they get to that wall with the ropes on it. He's like, Harlan's like, are you kidding? I can't climb a rope. My arms are still sore. He gets like halfway up and falls back down. The others are going on ahead, so he's just uses his power and just teleports through the wall. Jeff is coming up on a second run through the course and sees him doing this. So he does see that this is his power and how it works. That he
might be important
explodes.
later.
Yes, foreshadowing. He explodes, and that he beams over like on Star Trek, as he says. TM.
Yeah.
Let's see. They keep on running to the finish line, and does Haldeman know that he snuck through that obstacle? I can't tell, or if
Yeah, he
he's just
says a loud noise came from your general direction. So you heard the boom. I would presume that Haldeman knows all of their powers, but that's not exactly clear.
I'm just thinking he knows they have powers, but he doesn't know what they are because Bloodhound just knows they're paranormal. And until they, if they haven't filled out a form saying what their power is or something.
I guess I just assumed if the government knew enough to put them all into that group, then they knew they were paranormals. They must have spied on them or knew something about them, right?
I was just thinking that it's just like a mutant detector, it's like this energy is coming off of you or something.
Could
what
be.
You do with it could be anything. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, it's like drop and give me 50. And Chris and Garth, oh man, the Sarge is really riding Harley's butt. We got to do something. Nothing we can do that won't make it worse, Chris. Sarge tells them to head out to the rifle range and rides Harlan some more. And the last panel is Harlan really freaking out. Not fair. He picks on me. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna blow him to bits. Can't jump. Mine's too tired. Later for you, Sarge. 3 hours later. Lieutenant Remsen, you called me, sir? Yes, I did, Private Mook. If Harlan's all but dissertation to a PhD, shouldn't he be getting an officer training corps? Never mind.
Or something, right? Don't turn him into a grunt with a gun.
Yeah, kind of a waste. So he's like, Keith's like, oh, you heard your rough go of it this morning? Yeah, I guess I'm not very athletic. Well, you don't have to be for this exercise. Drink some drugs and lay down on the couch. 5 minutes and he's asleep. And
just roofie that guy?
Absolutely. He's like, time to go in another one. Why do I feel like I'm only pouring dirty water on clean dishes every time I do this?
It's a weird thing for you to say there, Remsen.
I'm not sure I understand it, but okay.
I mean, he's meaning that he's contaminating him, or like he's causing more problems than he's fixing.
Okay, yeah. So
again, though, like the I think the inker thing is killing me, just because like we get shifts in the book of haircuts, but then also shifts of inkers, so then the characters don't look right for two reasons.
Yeah, they
does not look like Keith Remsen. It looks like a man.
Colonel Mac Browning with a moon on his forehead. I just thought it looked cool.
One moon for every civilian helicopter exploded.
That's how I remind myself to keep an eye on those civilians. So inside Harlan's dream, it's Mathland. Okay. Nightmask
It looks
is
like one of those, like in every like cartoon and comic where they go into like the dream realm or the realm between things, and there's all these weird pathways and doors and shapes and path portals to other dimensions. It kind of looks like that, but with more like kitty block shapes.
yeah, it's more sort of basic geometric forms. There are a couple of numbers I see, but it's not like
Yeah.
all that Bessel expansion we were looking at before.
Yeah, it's like the kid's toy of like put this the correct shape into the box, you know. The triangle goes in the triangle shape hole kind of deal.
Why are you testing me like this? I have 180 IQ. It's been rated already. I don't know what you're bothering me for. So, yeah, Harlan's like in a maze, and Nightmask is kind of taunting him. Nightmask has become a little more um antagonistic, I guess. He said before that he'd been acting strangely, and this is where maybe we see a little bit more of that
Yeah.
than we had in the first dream. Who are you? What are you? I call myself Nightmask, and I'm Lieutenant Remsen's agent in. Hey, get back here, you elusive little mathematical equation. Mathematical equation. The Harlan like does his explode and teleport thing. Leave me alone, Lieutenant, if it really is you doing this to me. Elusive as an A in trigonometry. Come on, Mookie, play mind games with me. Um, anyway, he's
Mookie? I mean, come on.
yeah, I don't know. Unbalanced indeed. Fix that equation before I what? Again, what a square root. Well, his number's up. I'm out of here. What was that all about? Thinks that Keith to himself. The more paranormal dreams I enter, the more I lose control over Nightmask. For someone who lives for an ordered structure, Mook's mind was a little too jumbled. But is that a result of something wrong with him, or is it something I did to him? How can I tell anymore? What
Eh,
can't
give him an A, move him along.
yeah, put him on the front lines, I guess.
I think Keith just passes everybody.
It's hard to imagine what he pulled back now that I mean, the dream wasn't honestly very informative.
No, he just kind
Uh,
of like chased the guy around a little bit.
if he'd actually like talked to him about like how's it been going? Oh, the Sarge has been riding me. I can't keep up physically, and I'm constantly haunted with thoughts of self-harm and suicide. Okay, well, maybe we should do a little something with you instead of sending you back and pass back. He's like, yeah, he's just, God forgive me if I've made a mistake, and passes him on the psychiatric test report.
What's the advantage of doing this anyway? It's like that you couldn't just by asking questions and observing, like, and he's not
Yeah,
even sneaking into his dreams, and he's literally trying to go and talk to him in his dream, where he could just talk to him, right? Like he's not analyzing what's going on at all. It's just a bunch of math stuff. But yeah, I imagine, and not with only a couple pages left, but eventually that line of the more paranormal dreams I enter, the more I lose control over Nightmask will end up being important. Though that doesn't sound right because there is no Nightmask. It's just an outfit that Keith Remsen wears to disguise his identity. It's not a separate entity of any kind. So that don't
e-
make much sense. But
even if it is, though, I mean, how would it like my dream self has been getting out of control? So, okay. Even if the dream self goes into other people's dreams, like again, so what?
right,
I mean,
give you a dream wedgie.
yeah, okay. 7 p.m. 2 days later, everyone is at the mess hall, and Blur, as usual, is getting lots of food. Um, they It's a couple of characters we don't recognize, and Chris, Metallurgust, is looking at Harlan, thinking, poor Harley, he doesn't seem to be holding up too well. Haven't seen him eat more than a mouthful a meal. Maybe Garth and I can put a smile on that pasty face of his. So they, they're at a table with him, joking around about something, and here comes Pitbull. Hey, Four Eyes, pass me the salt there. Hey, those are my notebooks. What are you? Sure am hungry. Here we have
He
Pitbull.
did pass him the salt though, so
he's, he's a thoughtful guy. I don't know. Yeah, he's got his notebooks, and Pitbull took a big bite out of them. Okay, you mindless misanthrope, outside. That's the final straw. I've had it with you. We're gonna settle this once and for all. Get outside where we have sort of lined up Chris, Garth, and Harlan, and Pitbull is towering over them like 2-1.
yeah, pretty much.
And the guys are trying to talk him down. Harley, chill out, man. You don't want to mess with a guy like Pitbull. He's gonna die is what he's gonna do. He ate my math papers. Ate them for no reason. Just to bunch my hump. And Pitbull's like, why don't you tell your mama on me? Those papers of yours could have used more salt. So Harlan jumps at Pitbull, who kind of laughs and just holds him in the air there. What are you gonna do now, small fry? I'm going to kill you. You hear? Kill you. You think I can, don't you? I have the power. And next panel, boom. Chris and Garth are taken aback as this large explosion. Can't really tell how close they are, but they're not injured. And Chris is like, holy spit. They're gone. Nothing left of them. Harley blew them to bits. But there's no blood or anything. And it's like, Pitbull's voice around the side of the building. They go over there and we see Pitbull and Blur. Pitbull is still in one piece. You, Speedy Gonzalez, you tackled me. Freak tried to blow me up, but you knocked me away. Blur is thinking to himself he dislocated his shoulder. And Chris and Garth are like, oh, it's Pitbull and the fast guy. All right, what's going on?
This is kind of a weird scene. It's like where he disappears and Pitbull is basically unhurt. But like, I don't know. I have a hard time with Jeff knocking him out of the way, even though he's super fast. And then knocking him away around a corner too, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
Yeah, I think so. Jeff had seen that this is Harlan's power, and since he was threatening to kill him, realized he was going to just blow up and try to kill Pitbull. And so Jeff made the attempt, at least, going at super speed to push Pitbull out of the way, which went further away that it's like just out of sight, which is okay.
Yeah. Well, Pitbull in the previous books could take bullets too, so there's no guarantee that explosion is going to hurt him that bad.
Yeah, it's a bit like, I mean, from what we've seen of these explosions, that doesn't look any, I mean, Harlan's not in view, so it's probably, bigger, but he's not like so much a bigger explosion than the initial one that burned his books and just kind of hurt a couple of guys, regular guys. Anyway, we turn the page and Garth and Chris are talking to Harlan, who's in his bunk. There you are, Harley. Listen, Pitbull's okay. The fast guy pushed him out of the way. Just chill out a bit. We don't think Pitbull will squeal on you. Nope, Sergeant Haldeman comes in and sends Harlan to the pit. Get in there, Private. Anyone I catch screwing around with their powers gets 12 hours in the hole. I'm sorry, the hole.
The hole, not the pit.
While you're down there, Mook, I want you to think real hard about being a better soldier. You hear? See you tomorrow. This was not the therapy Harlan Mook needed. He's thinking to himself, very, this isn't fair. Things get worse and worse. I can't stand it down here. Chris and Garth come by. Harley, it's us, Chris and Garth. How you doing? Go away. Don't get in trouble because of me. We won't. Everyone's watching TV. The president's giving a big speech in Atlanta. Just go away. Okay. This is what you want. Harlan continues thinking to himself, none of this should have happened. Not my stupid power, not the draft, not the Sarge, not Pitbull. My life is ruined. Screwed up. I've got to get control back in my life. Do something to change things. Change the whole world, maybe. And we have Chris and Garth some distance away, and they see a boom from several houses down. And they're like, oh no, Harley, he must have blown out again. Wow, that was the biggest explosion yet. I wonder if the bigger the jump, the bigger the blow up. So far, he must have gone pretty far with that one. Anyway, they just like, okay, we'll just go watch the TV like we said it and forget about this.
Yeah.
So they're watching the TV, and the president, who sort of appears in shadow, I promise to you, the American people, once we find out who is responsible for Pittsburgh tragedy, there would be a reckoning. For the past 4 months, and there someone appears right behind him. Hey, Chris, look at that. It's Harlan. He teleported to Atlanta. Taps the president on the shoulder. Oh, no, don't. And he says, now you see us. And we see several Secret Service guys around him pulling guns out just as the president is going down at the podium. Boom. Pretty big explosion there. Several people are down on the ground. There's a woman screaming. I guess those were the Secret Servicemen. Maybe still alive, but there's a big television camera there, and someone's like still pointed at the president, who is still standing, although all his hair and half of his clothes have been burned off. Lord, what happened? Mr. President, are we still on? Mr. President, you were standing right in the middle of the blast. How did... Cut those cameras. The nation mustn't see me like this. Mr. President, that blast flattened everyone around you. How come it didn't? Unless... Sir, are you a paranormal? Well... dun, dun, dun.
This is Reagan, right?
This is Reagan.
Okay.
Ronald Reagan. Yeah, that's... still in office at the time, sort of winding down. But yeah, this is then we have another page of text. This is from Harlan Mook, and it's his like, I've gone crazy and decided to become a random assassin terrorist kind of guy thing. He's like, the guy the papers called the paranormal assassin, blowout, and super bomber. They
Kind of like Super Bomber.
Paranormal assassin's kind of cool.
That's cooler for sure. Yeah. Though, is he a paranormal that assassinates, or is he assassinate paranormal?
He talks a little about he's angry at the army, so he like goes to draft boards and recruitment offices. Blows up and to leave. So he learns that the president survived his visit, and that one of the TV cameras filmed what looked like him growing new flesh over the skin that was burned off. The nation is demanding to know if the president is a paranormal, but he's refused to comment. So he talks about like, I have to go blow someone else up. Maybe a lot of someone else's. Another politician, chairman of some billion-dollar corporation. Here we go. Maybe a rock star. How about the Pope? And that is the end of the draft.
3 out of 4 of his ideas aren't that bad.
I'm willing to like see where he goes with this.
Oh, what? The end on a text page.
As all these prestige books are so far begin and end with a text page, which not recommended.
No. Not the most exciting thing ever.
Oy. So
yeah, geez, like
think
what happened, right? I mean, we introduced some new characters. They went to boot camp. One of them got pushed too far. Tried to blow up the president. President's a paranormal. And then nothing. So like it's all setup, right? I mean, that's this whole book is 45 pages of setup.
That is, yes, correct.
Yeah, dang.
It's not Full Metal Jacket, it's the first half of Full Metal Jacket, which,
Right.
okay, the second half was pretty depressing, and I've never gone back and watched that movie, but um
I wonder if they felt constrained by the timeline kind of thing. Like, 'cause if they spend, okay, the idea is, all right, they get drafted, they're going to boot camp. Like, boot camp takes a while, right, before they can really kind of do something. And so, if they do a couple months worth of this book, that's going to be tricky to handle in like the real time timeline in the other books. I I don't know.
so I had pointed this out to you because to sort of make sure that this wasn't like mistimed, I looked ahead into the next month's books, and we start getting house ads for surprisingly, well, the draft also, but it's also a house ad that says they'll need to endure the draft to survive the war. And we see Gridlock, Blowout, Nightmask, and Metallurgust. And it says the draft from Marvel, the war coming this summer.
Yeah.
Now, as we, looking back, think of it, the war did not come this summer. The war came almost a year later and was the very last thing published in the new universe. So, you know, even like my vague memories of it is like, okay, so they decided to wrap everything and put it all into these prestige books and kind of either keep going or wrap it up or whatever. What if the war was meant to go like, because we talked before about how they never created new characters in new books.
Right.
Maybe this was the attempt to do it, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So they're like, oh, we'll put Nightmask and Jack Magnaconti into this new book, but instead of a regular book, it'll be a series of prestige format graphic novels. And so the war might have been meant to be coming out over this next year instead of after this year. And so here we're actually, yeah, this is just all set up. We get the new characters, and I'll be honest, they're not those three aren't the most amazing characters you ever saw, but at least it's like, yeah, one of them is like now the villain of the book,
Right.
so
Yeah.
he's going to be the person you're fighting. So these guys, they've joined the army, and we've got them as like point of view characters, and so maybe we go from there. So that to me gave me like a better like feel for this, just because like it, as opposed to what we talked about before, if this is your one chance, like the pit, to like sell people on the new universe, these books are doing terrible at that. You
Right.
don't see the main characters, you don't get a sense of what's going on other than one or two main points. And yeah, I mean, it's a little, but that's it. What's the resolution there? This guy
Right.
left boot camp. Okay.
I guess if they were doing this these days, it would have been like a mini series, perhaps, or like its own little kind of prelude to something mini series that kind of use the characters.
Yeah.
That
So
could have
I
solved some problems in like having it as an ongoing, rather than you feel like this one book, like it's its own self-contained thing, but it just isn't.
yeah, it feels like, issue one of like a series of ongoing graphic novels. I mean,
How do
I
you
guess, yeah, the whole idea of the prestige format back then wasn't always as prestigious as I kind of remember it. It's not always like the Dark Knight. Sometimes it's, well, we saw ads a month or two ago for Nick Fury versus Shield. Did you ever read that?
No.
It was a series of like six or eight um like prestige format books, but they're basically done at the level of regular monthly books.
Right.
Um, so I
Yeah.
mean, I can
Yeah,
mention the
DC
profit
had like
margin is
Cosmic Odyssey. It was kind of done in the same style.
right, right. Yeah, I can imagine the profit margin is higher on this. So if you're like, well, we can't sell as many books, but we could increase make these sort of higher end ones for the smaller audience, then at least it would balance itself out. Um, but anyway, I don't know, I'm being kind of meta here, and this is all just
Right, right.
speculation on my part. Yeah, as a piece of work itself, it leaves me, yeah. Mm, um, there's not much of a resolution. We just met characters and they didn't do very much.
Right. And how do you have such a huge like presidential cliffhanger and then what? Like they didn't even tell you to find out what happens next. Read this, you know?
I mean, yeah, they should have at least had like coming soon, the war or something in
Yeah,
here.
or like next check out DP7 issue 22, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Seems like a real flub. I was excited to see Nightmask back. He was um one of the few like main characters that we hadn't really seen yet, right? So that's I guess that kind of puts everybody back together other than Mark Hazard, who we're not getting back. But it was kind of unsatisfying, Keith Remsen. So
Yeah,
it wasn't
he's
his story, and you know his job in the army seems kind of dumb.
does not make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Also, he's really bad at it.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been more interesting to see if like someone he failed, then like what do you do with that person? Like this guy is insane. Do we just
Yeah,
keep him in the army? Do we send him out? We have an insane paranormal out on the streets. Is that better? I don't
but I
know.
mean, quite literally, like Cyforce issue 22 has Nightmask on the cover,
That's right.
looking kind of creepy. I'm like,
Yep.
give me an ad for that, right? Like, tell me, like, that's the next thing I should be looking at. Yeah.
Something to look forward to. Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite surprising this was one penciler. The inkers, give you such a variety of, you know, styles through the book.
Yeah.
Um, Grunwald and Nicieza, their own books are quite, involving. It was also surprising that it wasn't more of a follow-up to the Pit. I would have thought this would be a good chance for Colonel Browning to come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's been around, but,
I
or if,
mean,
like, what happened to Jenny Swenson or like,
several, yeah. Um, Let me see. I was like, I was kind of joking with Pitbull before in DP7 that he was like the Wolverine of the universe, but they really do seem to like be trying to, get him into the normal mainstream of them,
yeah.
even though he's also a cannibal. He's always
Yeah.
talking
I guess
about
he's more of a saber tooth than a Wolverine.
there you go. Okay. Yeah. He's he's a little over the top, but they're gonna keep going with him. Put him in as the oh, who is it? Uh, is it like in
Can't
Firefly?
help
He
you
played
there.
Jane. You know what I mean? The Adam Baldwin, the sort of big guy who
Okay.
kind of uh, bullies everyone else.
One of the lesser Baldwins.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Am I even right? I forget now.
I have no idea.
Okay, no one knows. So I did um I mean land Mastodon is on the cover, gets like a line. I don't
Yeah, he basically does nothing. Still nothing from Randy. It's just, yeah, it would have been nice to see a little more interaction with the characters we know. I think that would have helped kind of ground this book for new universe readers, right? Instead of just like, all right, here's mostly new characters that don't have interesting powers going through the draft process, kind of thing. But yeah, it's just, I don't know if this is better than the pit, but it's kind of dull, like you pick it up, I'm expecting something from this like special event that we've been building toward and like mentioning in the back, like with the draft, and like, no, this is not really anything terribly interesting happens. Like there's some characters, a couple new characters, but they don't do much. We don't know where the flying hubcap came from. We don't see any of them use their powers in an interesting way, except for the teleporting blowout. But then we don't even get follow up on that. Like again, like there was that terrible bit in Starbrand where they never bothered to show him superheroing or doing any action, and it's like, oh well, he's been blowing up recruiting centers and like causing all this havoc, and like that's on a text page, right? Like I mean, I guess they don't want to ruin the cliffhanger of the presidential shocker, which was kind of good. Like that was the only interesting thing that happened in the book. But yeah, like nothing happened, right? Like just nothing happened. Why bother? I don't think you would need to read this as a new universe reader. Like if you skip this, I'm guessing you really wouldn't miss that much.
Maybe right. Yeah.
Which is sad to say, but anyway.
I mean, there's only a handful of these special event books they came out with. It's yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're kind of doing what I wanted them to do, or like, and what we kind of were hoping they would do. Like, all right, let's have some new characters. Let's see what the canceled book characters are doing. Like, these are all good ideas. Just
right.
meh,
Yeah, it just sort of lands there, and you're like, okay. Yeah. So I don't know. That's what do I give this? B minus?
Yeah, I think it's C+.
Yeah. I mean, it yeah, it's just there for me. I mean, it's okay, but it's yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I've been enjoying the regular single issues, so let's get back to those, right?
Yeah, I think we'll let's should we wrap it up then?
Yeah, sure.
So speaking of what that of coming up, that is it for this week's episode. So next time, then the new universe gets back to those lovable, troublemaking teen scamps and scalawags, Psy-Force.
All right, you sold it for me. I'm excited. Psy-Force 22, drafted into military service, Thomas Boyd must undergo a psychiatric evaluation by none other than Nightmask. But Nightmask has been having some problems of his own since Pittsburgh was destroyed. How can he evaluate Thomas's sanity when he isn't even sure of his own? Ooh. Written by Fabian Nicieza, penciled by Ron Lim, inked by Mike Witherby. That one I'm interested in. Though
Right.
Thomas Boyd is, wow, who thinks he's insane? What? Like, he's pretty well put together.
So until then, you can catch us at our website, kickersinc.com, and you can always email us, newuniversepodcast@gmail.com. This has been the voice of the new universe, and we will see you back at the spinner rack.
It's your universe, idiot.
It was only supposed to make a buzzing noise.
He ate my math papers. Ate them.